good trainers have to be able to read their dog. I think dogs read us better than we can read them. So I have to do my best to read them and be able to time stuff. I think timing is real important. You all got little cheat sheets, right? Brian knows as well as anyone. My academic career is not a real highlight reel. I was a pretty solid C student. I don't promote the idea. I think school is really important. Okay, you too. How many kids? How old are you? 8.5? I love it when I get the halves in there. You know, when they're little, a half a year, it's a pretty high percentage of their life, right? And that's Blaine, right? How old Blaine's? 6? 6. Okay. You guys stay on your toes, okay? Because I might need you through this, okay? So, but I really think the reason I ask this stuff, and I'm going to tell you, normally I think people, when you listen to speakers talk, I think it's really interesting. Since I started talking about dog stuff, I'll give you my background. So my background is construction, has nothing to do with dogs. Worked in construction my whole life. Went to college for construction management across the river at Stout, UW Stout. Got a construction management degree. Didn't want to go into an office. Decided to join the Carpenters Union. Got an apprenticeship. Got a journeyman's card. Worked in the field. Loved it. Hurt my back. So then I had to have some surgeries and stuff, and I realized real quick that the travel part of that job and the physical part of that job didn't fit. I had a strong back, weak mind. That was what I was trying to avoid. Well, I had a weak back, and I like to think sometimes I have a strong mind. The C grade didn't always back that up. But so I hurt my back, and I decided real quickly I wanted to change what I was going to do. I had gotten into dog training real heavily in college. I shouldn't say real heavily. I got into it in college. We're in Minnesota, so I love Minnesota. I think I'm from Wisconsin. We do a lot of these things all over the place. When we go down south, everyone just figures I'm from Canada. I come up here and I go, boy, you guys think I'm a Southerner, you know, like Minnesota. But we're very similar, being Midwest, specifically being Wisconsin, Minnesota type. I think Illinois is very different than Wisconsin or Minnesota. I think Iowa is. So there's macro and then there's micro, and I think culturally there's a lot of differences. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I think this is like what we can relate to. I think our cultural impacts on our dogs is really important. So I'm going to feed into that all the way through this. But I have found Minnesota, anybody in here, are you guys all from Minnesota? We live in Minnesota. So everyone skated here, right? Or they parked their boat in front, because that's all people do in Minnesota, right? Is have boats and ice skate. No, that's a stereotype. I don't think it's a bad one, but I'm totally feeling out the crowd right now, and I'm sensing some tension. I'm joking, all right? I'm from Green Bay. I'm not a Packers fan, okay? I am a Bears fan. The thing about being a Bears fan is it hasn't been a threat for 10 years, so you guys won't have to worry about that. Now, but I do think that it's interesting because I went to Stout, and most of 50% of the school, the kids that go to that school, were from Minnesota. And so I got to know some of my best friends. They're Minnesota people. And they were big duck hunters. Anybody here duck hunters? We got a few duck hunters. I'm surprised. The last group, there weren't nearly as many duck hunters as I thought there would be as well. But I got to meet these guys, and that's when I really got into training dogs. Because to me, the best part about duck hunting to me was watching good dogs work and working with these dogs. So that's when it really bit me, and I really latched on to the idea of training. So over those years, I had gotten some pretty good dogs. Now, if you know where Stout is, Stout's in Menominee, which is just kind of northeast a little bit of like Buffalo County and La Crosse County, Trempealeau County. Really, really strong areas if you're a whitetail person. And so I realized very quickly that I spent the majority of my college years, there were 5 of them, but I made it through, but all 5 of those years, I spent bird hunting the majority of the time with dogs. And then I went back home, which is over on the east side of the state, and I realized I had missed out on what I thought might be opportunity as far as the deer stuff. So I wanted to get back into deer hunting because that's where I'm super passionate about. And so I got back into the deer hunting and I realized, what the heck do I do with these dogs now? I had a real nice dog. I enjoyed training them. I had gotten to the point then where I was actually, there were people that were asking me to train their dog. So I was kind of taking them in and training a few dogs on the side. And I realized I wanted to continue the dog thing, but I also wanted to focus on deer. Because if you're a deer, who's a deer hunter in here? Much greater percentage, right? Makes sense. You're at a shed dog seminar. So, why are we talking? I'll get to that in a minute. But so, with the deer thing, if you're a deer hunter and you want to be successful, I think it's very, very easy to understand quickly that it takes some time and takes some commitment. It takes a lot of hours that aren't necessarily sitting in a stand. There's a lot of preparation to it. There's a lot of scouting, trail cameras, all that stuff. So, bird hunting is the same thing. I spent 95% of the time probably scouting rather than hunting. And that was because I wanted to do well with it. I'm not interested in doing stuff halfway. I want to do it, I want to do it pretty good. So I didn't have enough time to do both in the fall, so I decided to focus on deer. And I realized now I don't have anything to do with my dog. How do I connect the two? So I went to a seminar. I Googled shed dogs. Now, this would have been like 2009, probably about 2008, 2009. And when I Googled shed dogs, I would tell, this is how crazy shed hunting has gotten over the last few years. 5+ years, I would say now, but I used to ask people if I could shed hunt, and they looked at me and said, what is that? I don't know what that even is. Like, not very many people were doing it. There were people that were doing it, just not a lot. It's gotten very popular. I think it's evolved with, kind of followed along with managing deer, quality deer management, that kind of thing. It's a part of it. It's another segment of our deer hunting. So, but when I started doing this, I Googled shed dogs, and I found one article, and there was an article in Outdoor Life. It was about a guy who used his dog to find antlers, and it showed some pictures, and it was really cool. And I said, I'd really like to try doing that. So I happened to be in Green Bay, and there was a deer classic, and there was a guy that was there, and he was talking about shed dogs. I saw it, I was like, I gotta go. So I went, I watched it. I went home a little disappointed, because what I saw was a guy who did a really cool demonstration. He showed us his dogs could find antlers. He hit some in the crowd, he threw some on the stage, the dog picked them up and brought them back, and it was pretty cool. And I went home with no more understanding of how to do that than I did when I got there. It was a demonstration. Now the guy sold a DVD on training dogs. So you could buy his DVD, or you could buy a dog from him. He sold dogs. Or you could send your dog to him. So I didn't get anything out of that seminar as far as how to do it myself. So I was pretty disappointed. Well, I tried it anyway. So I took this old dog of mine. She was 8 years old at the time. And I took some antlers. I started working with her. Now remember, prior to this, I had shed hunted, but not with a lot of success. So I didn't know much about it. I took her, I threw some antlers, I played with her, I did some stuff. She was a gun dog, she was a bird dog, real good one. And that year I shed hunted with her, and I found more sheds that year with her than I had found in every year prior of shed hunting without a dog. So I was very convinced this is the way to do this. Now, was it because of her? I think it helped. I'll talk about this in a little bit, but so I found some success. So then I said, I want to do it with a puppy. So I went and I got a puppy. This one's 11 weeks old. This one's a year and a half old. So it was in between this. It was about 6 months old. And I had a pretty good foundation with bird dog stuff, gun dog stuff. I was turning out some pretty nice dogs. And so I kind of went with a similar approach. So I took this puppy. I started with a balled up sock in the hallway, and I closed all the doors, and I rolled it down, and she went and picked it up and brought it back to me. It was just very natural. Retrieve. Then I went through some of her foundation work, which is real important stuff. So I got to that. Then she's about 6 months old. She's done teething. I took an antler, real similar to this, about that size. I thought, well, here we go. I'm going to have a shed dog. And I remember it. It was on a road called Ribka Lane. There was ice on the road. It was frosty morning. I could tell you everything about it. I pitched this little antler, and I lined this little dog up, and I sent her, and she ran down to it. She ran very excited, a lot of enthusiasm, just the way I like a little dog to make a retrieve. And she hit it. It was laying just like this, and she went, and she poked herself, and she flipped over, and she went, yip, 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 and she came running back to me. She had her tail between her legs, and she really looked like something had bit her. That's what she thought happened. She saw this thing for the very first time, and it bit her. And she turned and looked at me and said, I want nothing to do with it. So now I had bought this puppy with the intentions of just shed hunting with her. And now I've got a little puppy that's afraid to shed antlers at 6 months old. Anybody ever hear of a gun-shy dog? So what's a gun-shy dog? It's a dog that's afraid, freaks out, panics, doesn't want anything to do with gunfire or loud noises, right? A lot of times you see it where you pick the gun up and the dog freaks out. You don't have to shoot the gun. It's just, it's connected some majorly negative things to gunfire or loud noises, and it connects it to the gun, right? So how do dogs get gun shy? You know, with our live thing, we do these live trainings, and just about every week, at least once a week, someone asks the question about gun shy stuff. How do I fix a dog from being gun shy? How do I introduce a dog to gunfire? That kind of thing. Because I think it's a very, very common issue. And I got a lot of people that want to get into shed hunting because they have a gun-shy dog, and they can't do anything with him anymore, and they go, what am I going to use it for? So that's all fine, but when we have problems, I think the thing to do is reverse engineer it, figure out what caused the problem. So how did you get gun-shy dogs? Who knows what makes the most gun-shy dogs in the world? A lot of people will say 12-gauge shotguns. Fireworks. 4th of July creates more gun-shy dogs than any shotgun ever will. Because the thing about, and so, great answer. The thing about fireworks is no one thinks about dog training when the 4th of July rolls around. You guys are from Minnesota, I'm from Wisconsin. We might have the barbecue going and be sipping a few pops, right? And all of a sudden, boom, 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 we're lighting off fireworks. Well, now we forget we're always in training because dogs are always learning. So that's one of my rules. You go on this little card here. Now I would look at, so this is a little cheat sheet. This is from years back. I've used these now for 4 or 5 years. And I thought about this last night because I knew we brought these with. And I like to give them to people because sometimes people take notes and there's not a lot of room there, but it's just something for them to take home and think about. And I think it's important. So when I decided to do it, I also use it for myself to keep myself on track. I need an outline sometimes. You'll find out real quick, I go in a lot of directions. So like, buckle up. You're in. So I'm going to look at more of the shed training than anything right now. The back side of it is our game recovery or tracking stuff. We do the same thing with the same dogs. So I look at this and there's 4 major things. And this was years ago that I put this little cheat sheet together. The one thing that I've realized is over the last 4, 5, 6 years, 10, 15 years that I've been working with dogs, I've realized I change. A lot of the things I do change. Now the foundation, the core of it is usually very, very similar. But I've tweaked some things. A perfect example is this little puppy. I've done a few things different with her this time than I have in the past, and I like it. I have for those who have watched this on Facebook, we've got this little pen area, and I put a crate inside of it, and I left the crate open. And I let the puppies, because I had 2 of them, I had her and her sister, from 5 weeks to 7 weeks, we had them with us, and the other 3 boys were down in Mississippi. So when I had those 2 pups together, I didn't want to kennel them in a crate together. Because if one had an accident, the other mate would be in the same world with it. And I don't want pups to have accidents in crates, because then they think it's okay, and then all of a sudden it makes it very hard for me to housebreak them. But 5 weeks old is a little early for me to be housebreaking. So I'm not able to ask them to control it 100%. So what I did was I replicated what the kennel did. The kennel has a pen thing, elevated, let's say it's about this big, and it's elevated. And from here to here is like a little house. It's like a little hut. You close the lid on it, it gets dark in there, it's soft, they got little wood chip things in there. The pups all come in there and they sleep. They stay warm because it's enclosed and it's nice. They got a heat lamp. Then out here is a parking lot. It's an area that's just, dogs can go out, they feed them there, they put the bowl of food in there. All these little puppies attack, and they eat. They go to the bathroom out here. And then what happens is this inside stays nice and clean and dry. So what's happening is, if your kennels do that, they're making your life a whole lot easier when pups come home. Because the pups are getting in the habit already, they don't want to mess with their sleep. So they're getting in the habit of going out and messing out here, coming in here and sleeping. So what I did was, because they were only 5 weeks old, and I don't think I can ask them to all stay, these two pups to stay in a crate together, and make sure that one doesn't have an accident and influence the other. So what I did was I took the pen and I put the crate in there and I left the crate door open. So the puppies just naturally slept in the crate. And when they came out, they were going to go to the bathroom. And if I missed it, they had an accident on my tile floor and I was able to clean it up. But what I did a real nice job of, and I'm pretty proud of what our family was able to do, was pay really close attention. And when pups got up and woke up, we took them outside immediately and let them go outside. So by 7 weeks old, I had a puppy that was significantly far along the way of housebreaking, only because of my setup. So that's a micro example of something that I did differently. I never used to do that. If I changed it a little bit, I have found some success with it. I'll probably do it in the future. I'll recommend it to other people. But I've changed. One thing that hasn't changed is, when you look at the shed thing, so I'm just going to run through this really quick. Because who came here to listen about shed dog training? I'm assuming the majority. So we're going to, if you don't raise your hand, we can talk about other stuff. So shed training is going to be part of this, okay? But in order to have shed training, the shed training part is easy. I'll throw it out there. It's very easy. You have the right tools, a little bit of information. Most of the stuff that my dogs do to retrieve sheds is very natural. They use their nose, they use their eyes, and they retrieve. Nose, eyes, retrieve is very natural. He's grabbing some seats if you guys want seats. Yeah. So pile them in if people want to come in. So that's real natural. So that part usually isn't people's issues. Usually the issues come with people that want to do all that stuff, but they don't have a foundation to build on. So back to my construction thing, I could build the biggest, prettiest house in the world, but if I don't put a foundation underneath it, it's going to tip over. Up here, you're going to have frost heaving it. It's going to look nasty. It's going to tear it right apart. But if you've got a real solid foundation, it'll last forever, right? So same is true with my dog. So the majority of the mistakes and issues that come up are not with shed training. Even more so when it comes to tracking. Tracking's great majority natural. Just bring it out of them. That's all we're trying to do is bring it out of them. The foundation is where people struggle. So let me look at this. Number one, 3 steps. I'm keeping this shed thing simple. Shape, scent, or smell, and then feel. Now, there's the big picture. How do we break those ones apart? We're going to. I'm going to show you a lot of that. But let's skip on from that. So I don't want to minimize the value or importance of the shed part of this. But I'll be honest with you. Scent, shape, information, and eventually feel is pretty easy to do. Real easy to do. Okay? Go to number 2. Training a dog is nothing more than, okay, the people who have heard me on Facebook before can call me the broken record. It won't hurt my feelings. I say the same stuff over and over and over and over and over. It gets old. I can't imagine for my poor wife and kids. They just, man, they hear a lot of stuff over and over and over again, right? So why is that? Okay? I truly believe this. Dog training is nothing more than forming habits. Dogs don't do stuff because they enjoy it. They don't do stuff because I don't want them doing stuff because they're afraid of me and consequences. I think we've got some kids in here. What was it, 10? 7? 8? Did you change? Were you 8 from the start? It's got me confused. All right, what are you? 8? You were 7 before. I videoed it on live. We'll go back. 10, 8, 8, 6. Got some newcomers. How old are you guys back there? How old? 9 and 6. All right. Big brother talks to his little brother. I like that. Well done. Culturally, I see some kids that have been raised in pretty good culture. Okay? Now, this is just me shooting from the hip, snap judgment. But I think I want to change from training dogs to raising dogs. That's my mission. I want people to start thinking about it as we're raising them, we're not training them. Because when you guys had kids, myself included, first day I had a kid, I went, whoa, wow, things really changed. I mean, now, the person that just gets their puppy, I had 2 guys in here that haven't got their dogs yet. So they're going to get them in a couple weeks. And what I hear a lot is folks will send me a message and say, hey, we just got a puppy. We're super excited. I'm going to ask this question next, because again, I got to read my crowd here, but just got my puppy. How many minutes a day should I be working with this dog? I see what you're doing, love what you're doing. How many minutes a day? When I brought my kid home from the hospital, I wasn't going to ask someone I didn't call my mom and dad and go, how many minutes a day did you guys train me when you brought me home? You know, because I'm just a baby. My attention span is pretty short. How many minutes a day did you train me? No, right? It's all of a sudden you've got a kid in your life and you're raising the kid. And when do you punch out of raising the kid? Never. So here's the thing. Kids are always learning. Puppies are always learning. Consequently, I'm always training. If you change your mindset to that right now, things will go a lot better for you. Because here's the reason. Back to my thing. Training a dog is nothing more than forming habits. Habits are formed through repetition and consistency. If I had a penny for every time I said that over the last 10 years, I'd be on a beach right now, sipping margaritas, man. I'd be done. Because I say it so often. Nothing more than forming a habit, and habits are formed by repetition and consistency. So remember that. And remember the idea that we're always training, they're always learning. I think that's actually one of my next things. Dogs, especially young dogs, are always training. Instill good habits, avoid bad ones. Don't train something in today that you will have to train out tomorrow. I think that is so valuable. Because once we change our mindset into thinking that way, training becomes easy and doesn't take any more time. Okay? Number 4 is incremental training, build off your last lesson. Everything I do builds off of something I've already done. And then it builds off of something that I've done, and then it builds off something that I've done. We're always building. And at times, we run into roadblocks. And instead of lowering our head and ramming through the brick wall, I ask people to take a step back. Take a step back, look at the brick wall, and realize there's a door right there. That might be what it takes. But if you never pick your head up and take a step back, a lot of times we run into issues, and most of the time it's foundational issues. Foundation, let's see what this puppy does. Foundational issues. Whoop. Boy, she is out like a light.
Her eyes open.
Tough day. Her eyes are open. Wait a minute. Welcome. Now, we're going to wake somebody up. So, this whole shed thing, back it up. Okay? And you can do this with a dog that doesn't have to be 11 weeks old. I got to ask this first. I'm doing a really poor job of reading my crowd. Who's got dogs here? If you don't have a dog and you're at a dog training seminar on a Saturday, man, there's way more stuff to do in Minnesota. Who doesn't have a dog here? You're getting one though, aren't you? What's that?
He died recently.
Oh, sorry to hear that, guys. Here's the thing. Put all this stuff in your memory bank. Because that next one will be there. So, okay. So, who has a puppy? Because I've got a puppy here, and I got an old dog here. Who's got a puppy? How old?
4 months.
4 months, great age. My favorite. 16 months is when they really capture stuff. They really, if you've done a nice job building them up to this point, you're going to see real acceleration. I love that 4 month window. I love 4 months to 6 months. I feel like they really get going. Who else has a puppy?
We're getting one in 2 weeks.
Getting one in 2 weeks. Memory bank with you too. Who else has got a puppy? Who's got a dog? How old?
3 April.
3? 3. Oh? 7. Oh. You've got a cat? I'm a hell of a trainer, but I don't know if I can. You don't have a dog? You want one? This is a great place to show Dad that you're interested. Sorry, Dad. Who else has a dog? How old? 9 years old? 1-year-old. I caught you. I'll get back to you. You got 2? I'm not going to be able to catch you, Blaine. You're right. And anybody else? You got one? How old's yours? What is it? 10? Okay. I caught him. He's got a puppy. He's got a 1-year-old dog. It's a puppy. So I call them puppies from puppy, like little, up till 2 years old. I call them puppies. And I think it's surprising to a lot of people because at about 10 months old, they look like dogs, but they think like puppies. It's like that kid, it's like Ed Rindell from our grade. Ed was a man in 8th grade. He looked like it. I mean, sometimes you get those dogs that they just, boom, they grow up and they're dogs. But boy, they act like puppies. And so we have to realize that, and we have to understand that, and we have to train. 1-year-old dog, when I said I have puppies, and then I have a dog, and I don't know if you caught it or not. 1.5-year-old dog, I still have a puppy up here. So, but she's a lot further on than my 11-week-old. So keep that in mind. So when we start out with our puppy, I'm going to start forming habits. Ears perk up. Little pup goes, wow, this is weird. We're doing this at really weird times today. Normally this happens around between 8 and 10 in the morning and somewhere between 4 and 6 in the evening is how I try to do it consistently. So the people that have been following live have seen the progress. When I first started out with this, see this bowl of food? It makes the exact same bowl of food sound as the bowl of food at their kennel when they're fed. Now at the kennel, they would feed about 3 times. Usually our kennel that we get them from feeds 3 times a day on a schedule, morning, noon, night. The dogs understand that and they program to it. And not only is it a very good part of the day for them, but it also is a period of time where they have to survive. If they don't eat, they die. So it's that intense at that moment. You guys come on in, there's some chairs. So with this puppy at the kennel, when that happens, it lights up in her. Now, she's nowhere near as excited right now as she once was when we first brought her home. The people that watched this on live know that. When I first brought this dog back and we started this drill, now remember, the sound is the same. Anybody ever hear Pavlov? So Pavlov used to be able to use classic conditioning, and he showed it with dogs, where he would ring a bell and then get the dogs to drool. And he'd ring a bell and the dogs would drool. Well, it wasn't the bell that created it, it was what led up to him ringing the bell, which he would feed them and ring the bell. And this little dog, I get a bowl of food out and I set it down on the ground, and that dog right there sits there, and it just drools out of her face, and she just laid and watched. Well, if I had conditioned ringing a bell at that moment, I could take the food away, eventually ring the bell, and the drool would start, because she connects it to that activity of that food. So with this dog, I'm going to work on some classic conditioning. I'm a big believer in it. So when I get the bowl of food ready at my house and they're really little, they're very excited. And they fuss and they whine and they whine and they listen and they move. And this one is real vocal. She looks at me like, what the hell is your problem? What's your problem? I stuck it out with her for weeks. So this little girl right now, if you felt her heartbeat right now, it's really calm. Her muscles right now are super relaxed. Where, watch back on, if you're on Facebook, we do some stuff on Instagram too, but more, the Facebook stuff is saved. So go back 2.5, 3 weeks now, when we started at 7.5 weeks with her. And you'll watch, one time, I held her for 46 minutes. And then I would switch arms. And then she'd fuss. And then I'd switch arms. And then she'd fuss. Then she'd wiggle. Then she'd whine. Then she'd settle down a little bit, and I'd wait 5 seconds. And then she'd whine again. And in my head, I'd reset the clock. I pushed clear. Reset it, reset it, reset it. And then all of a sudden, the little puppy did this. Just got discouraged and tired enough where she went. And I felt that. Physically, I felt it. And so I set her down and I let her eat. So then I did it twice a day. I feed the dogs twice a day. So I did it in the morning, I did it at night. And each day I did it, it progressionally got a lot better, a lot quicker for her to settle in. But then, about 2 weeks into it, I was to the point where I was holding on to her, and then I would set her down and I would let her feet touch the ground. And as soon as I even lowered her down to the ground, her legs would start going. Because she knew what was next. I'm going to hit the ground and go. And so I would then change it, and I would touch her feet to the ground, and if she wiggled or fussed, I would pick her up. And then I would touch her feet to the ground, and if she fussed, I picked her up. And as soon as I touched her feet to the ground and she didn't fuss, I let her eat. Did that for a couple days. Then pretty soon, I made her butt hit the ground. And all of a sudden her butt would hit the ground. And then I'd let her go eat. And then all of a sudden I made her butt hit the ground and I made her wait. And if she moved, I picked her back up. So incremental training, I think, is the bottom one. We incrementally trained to get to the point where this dog understood that right now is the best time of the day, and in order for me to enjoy it, I have to be calm. I have to be quiet. I have to be steady. I want that in my hunting dogs in a blind. I want that in my hunting dogs at Cabela's in Rogers, Minnesota. I want that in my family dog when I'm watching TV. I want that all the time. So it starts right here, where if we just got them wound up and rewarded them, we're going to form a habit. We're forming the wrong one. We're forming the habit that regardless of your behavior, you're going to get what you want, whether it's good, in my opinion, or not. So here, they're always learning. Make sure it's a good habit. So now we're to the point of this. And I'll show you, we'll do a couple different ways with this. So the first thing I'll do is, this is backed up a few steps. And there's a couple reasons I show you this, is because it's going to lead us into some of the stuff I'm going to do with the big dog here on some retrieves later. But I get the pup here. She's been calm this whole time. She's not made a peep. Her muscles are completely relaxed. So that tells me they better be. We've been doing it for 4 weeks, you know. We've made some steps. So now I set her down, and I'm going to have her sit to the ground. Sit. Stretch out. Sit. Sit. Good. Now, one thing I like is her eyes. She's looking to me. Sprite. And I send her on her name, and I snapped it and I sent her down. She has to eat. She's pretty happy about that. Now, when we first started it, it was like 3 feet. We didn't put her very far. Usually I water this food down. You can see how she has a tendency to pick that kibble up, carry it over, and chew on it. It's hard for her to chew. She's a little puppy. She's got very little teeth. So, normally, I'm watering that food down, because it allows for her to eat it quicker, and I want her to get in the habit of eating quickly. I don't want her to dawdle, because we travel a lot. I don't have 30 minutes to feed every dog. I want them to get to the food and eat, get to the food and eat. So now, this is fast-forwarding some of this stuff. Now we're to the point where just this last week, we've been working on some sits and recalls for a couple weeks now. Now what I want to do is I'm going to have the bowl of food, and I'm just going to add a layer to it. So I'm going to get her to sit. Sit. Now she's real hesitant to sit for me this afternoon. Sit. Good. Now I marked it with a good. Now I'm real slow moving. I'm very clear. There's no mistaking this with my hand. I set the bowl of food down. I'm going to take my time back to her. Now she's all turned around. Her line is awful right now. I'm going to help her with that before I send her. I send her down. We have success on it. So we just built off of it. The first one, now, it's clear to me that dry food is a lot harder for her to eat than wet food. I wet that down and soak that. She's going to gobble it up. She's going to sit there. She's going to focus on it. Eat it quickly. This will take her a while to eat. So I would water it down for sure and continue to do that. We just don't today. We didn't today, but. So what I'm doing is, now I want to show you the next thing. When it comes to some of the shed stuff. So how does that, you've heard me preach. You've heard me talk quite a bit about foundation and how important foundations are. I think foundations are critical. Without a good foundation, your building tips over. This is starting habits that Ellie here, my next dog, she goes, I have to get off this bed. Come on. Now, before I do this, I'm going to do something really quick. Need a volunteer. Well, you were really quick. I'm just giving her a hug is all. No problem. You don't have to. I need a volunteer.
Way back there.
I promise you, it's going to be pretty fun. Come on up here. Now, 6 years old? 6? What's your name? What is it?
Raymond.
Raymond?
Waylon.
Waylon.
I can't hear with it out. I really can't hear with it in. Waylon, nice to meet you. Do me a favor, go peel that jacket off and put me to work, son. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. I want to show you something, Waylon. Waylon, how many do you have dogs, Waylon? You lost your dog recently, didn't you?
Did your puppy die?
Here's what we're going to do.
That's what he meant, honey.
I'm going to have Waylon take Ellie for a walk. Okay? You ever walk your dog before? This you're going to learn today. I'm going to show you. So here's the thing. There's two parts of this equation right now. Ellie and Waylon. Trust me, Ellie's pretty good. Ellie's not a bad dog. Waylon is pretty good. He's not a bad bloke. He's a pretty good fella. I can see it right now. These two have never met. You ever see two people that... I'm from Pulaski. Pulaski is the capital of polka. It's the home of the largest polka festival in the Midwest. I don't know if anybody knows that, but third weekend in July, I'll see you on the dance floor. So later in the evening is when I get on the dance floor. And I get good. Have you ever seen two people? I mean, you guys are in Minnesota. People polka in Minnesota. Ever see two people polka that have never danced together before? Anybody? She has. She's the only honest one in the group. No. Anybody ever see two people dance together who have never danced before? Ever see two people that don't know how to dance very well dance together for the first time? It's pretty ugly. I mean, it can be downright brutal. So, these two have never seen each other. I like to watch people that know how to dance. I lost my feel with that puppy. Jason caught me this morning when I did it. So that puppy just put her paw on the ground and got away with it. I was way too late to correct. So Steph got it. So we got it eventually. That's feel that I didn't have with that pup. I'll work on it. I'll get better. Waylon here and Ellie. Waylon, take that dog for a walk, if you would. Walk it around the room. Let's see how this goes. Now remember, they've never danced before. They're going to make me look like a fool. Right now, Waylon's got quite the move. Swing her around here, Waylon. Bring her right around. Waylon, did you bring a resume? Dogbone's always looking to add good people. Bring her right around. Bring her right around. Bring her right around. Come right past me. Now I'm going to give you a target here. You come right down here with me, Waylon. Waylon, you might make me look like a fool because you're doing so well. Now take her around and now do me a favor and just walk down to that chair and back if you would. And I want you guys to notice a couple things. Body language on Waylon and body language on Ellie. Go right down to that chair there, bud. Notice, boy, I'm noticing a lot. You know, come on back. Come on back. Look at Waylon. Now look at Ellie. There. Ellie made a nice correction. Now swing back around and go back down to that chair. A little faster, and then stop about halfway there. Go a little faster, go a little faster, go a little faster, Waylon. Faster, Waylon, faster, Waylon, faster, Waylon. Now turn. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'll tell you right now, that's pretty good. That's damn good. That's really good. Bring it over here. Bring it over here. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to take her, Waylon, and I'm going to show you guys a few things. Now, I credit that to two things. I think Ellie's a pretty nice little dog. I think she's pretty fine. She showed me a lot right there because intentionally I didn't show Waylon how to do anything. My hopes were that Waylon would really struggle. Waylon proved me wrong. Did a really nice job. Now, here's why. I don't care what you say. If you don't see the feel there and the connection there, you're blind. I've seen people that have zero experience with dogs, but have tremendous connection with dogs, do really, really impressive stuff. Might not know a thing about training, but they got great feel. Waylon's got great feel. I don't know how much he knows about training, but he's got great feel. I've seen some people that have gone to every class, read every book, watched every DVD, and they can't make the dogs do much. Because they know all the mechanics, but they can't connect. This dog needs to trust him. And so I noticed a couple things. Physically, I saw feel. And I don't always preach the idea of touching the dog much. With this, I'm fine with it. Because these two just locked. They sync. Now, that was very good. Was it as good as it could be? No. Will it get better? Yes. And it's going to get better in a really short period. So it totally changes what we did this morning. This morning we had a little girl. You're 6? Madeline was 6, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. So we had Madeline this morning. She was 6 years old. And she took Ellie off of her bed, and Ellie was all over the place, and Madeline was kind of all over the place, and she struggled a little bit, and then all of a sudden they got through, and they looked pretty good for a little bit, and then they struggled again, and then Ellie would want to go this way, so Madeline went with her. So it was a really good example for me to say, Madeline doesn't know anything any better. I didn't tell her how to do it. So I showed her a couple corrections. I showed her how to mechanically hold the leash in the right spot, give a little correction to Ellie, and I did this walk back, walk back, walk back, and they nailed it. They got it really easily. So I said, what happened here? Because I took the dog and I worked the dog, and the dog worked really well for me. Then I gave her to Madeline, and the dog fell off the tracks. No, the dog didn't fall off the tracks. 50% of the equation was changed in the change with Madeline. So then I said, Madeline, let's change yours, part of it. And when I mixed it back with Ellie, things went pretty good. So now, Waylon, I'm going to ask a lot out of Waylon. I thought it was pretty impressive. Like, I think he did a great job. Now, I'm going to show you with Ellie. You wait here right for me. I am a believer that I'm always looking to sharpen stuff. So right now, that was good. We can do it better. When am I done with the dog? Never. That's the answer. So when are you done with your dog? Never. I had a guy email me the other day. He's got a 15-week-old pup. Done with the place training, done with the recall, done with the sit, ready to get to the good stuff. And I said, I haven't had the time because I'm going to have to write him a book back. And I will. But it's been 2 days now, so I'll be getting to him. But I'm going to talk to him about patience. Because pretty quick, the 15-week-old is coming off the tracks. And if he just has the vision of a 15-year-old finished dog, there's no such thing. They're never finished. So I'll help him. I'll help him understand that pump the brakes a little bit. Because I guarantee you, 15 weeks isn't long enough to get the habits formed that I'm looking for. They will rear their ugly head. It'll happen. So Ellie and me are going to work on heel work. Waylon, take notes, brother. Ellie, heel. Now I'm looking for some things that are very precise. When a dog goes slow, I'll go fast. See how ugly that was? I went boom, and she walked into my leg and bumped me. So are we synced together right now? No. This is how I will sink. This is how I start every lesson. If we're going to do, I do 3, 4 different things. I have it in my mind. I know what we're going to do. I start them all out with heel word. Most of the time it's off beat with her. So, heel. She has a tendency right now to lag. Fairly responsive, bad turn, heel. She has a tendency to lag, I can feel it. Come on, come on, come on, come on. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to speed her up. Come on. Get to my pace, get to my pace. Come on, come on, come on. Very good. Very good, very good. Come on, come on, come on. See how sloppy that turn was? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. She's reading my stops pretty good, but she's behind. She's behind. She's behind. So what I'm liking is this tail's going. So when I came in here and I said I got to read you guys to figure out where I can go with this, now I have to read her. Am I reading to her right now? She's too slow. Come on. Now I'm looking for feet. I want her feet to be precise. So, heel. Too far behind. Too far behind. Come on. She's waiting. She's anticipating. Come on, 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 come on. Sloppy. Up, 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 up. That's not what I want. I want sharp. Come on, come on, come on. Better. There's a little crisp change. There's a little crisp change. Good. I'm getting dizzy. Waylon. Now, I want, first off, I never even told Waylon the right side to put her on. And I had him, he was healing her on the left and the right. I'm surprised. But you notice on the very last time when they came back down, Waylon had Ellie on the right side, and Ellie switched back over and went into the left. And that's where she feels comfortable. That's what she's used to. So I want you, now I'm going to challenge you. So you come on over here. Couple things. Where do you put your hands on the lead? Before I get to the lead, she's got a slip collar on. Flat collar, slip. They're important. Before she used that, I used this. Who knows what this is? What's this? Who knows what this is?
Choke chain.
Choke chain, choke collar. If you go downstairs and you find one of these on the shelf, I think it will probably say choke chain or choke collar. Here's the thing. If you use this and it chokes your dog, you're using it the wrong way. It's not designed to choke. It's designed to create pressure, so you're not wrong, you're right. That's what people call it. If you're using it as a choke collar, you've got it on backwards. Is it possible? This is probably one of the most simple things in a dog trainer's bag. I use them because it creates a very sharp correction. It's extremely sharp. It's on and off, on and off, on and off. So that's how we put it on, right? So I'll give it to people and I'll say, put that on your dog. They got a 50-50 chance. You put it on one way or the other. There's not a lot of variety here. But if you put it on the wrong way, watch what happens.
You're in trouble. Told you. I think she may have to go that one. She's kind of shaking.
I think she'll be all right. I think she's a tester.
You like the choke? You like the choke collars?
I use them for early correction. So I like slip chains. I don't like choke collars. So here's why. When you put this on this dog, 50-50 chance, right? Put it on. Dog's in heel position on the left side, it's loose. It's the way it's supposed to be. They're designed to be correct release, pressure off, pressure off, pressure off. Pressure when they get out of heel, off when they get back in. So my dog's on my left-hand side. Now I heel him on the left. I don't care if you heel him on the left or the right. Pick one or the other. Stick with it. Consistency. Okay? I heel him on the left. Pup's walking down the road and we got a loose chain. Pup gets out of my zone and I need to correct it. So I do. I correct and I release it. But look what happened. It's the same amount of pressure that is on. So here, it's loose, correct, never released. Never released. I correct? I correct? The same amount of pressure is on it right now as when I'm here. It just never releases. It binds up. So now, if I flip it around, and I make it like the letter P, and I put it on, Pup's walking down the road, it's loose. Pup gets out of the zone. I correct. What happened? Slipped right off. Pressure on, pressure off. Now it's working like it's supposed to. So this does not choke the dog unless you're using it backwards. Choking it would be, now if you flip it around and you heel them on the other side, you just turn this around. It'll work the exact same way. So this is a sharper correction. I'll use that before I use this. It kind of depends on the dog. How much pressure do they take? How much pressure are they okay with? I don't want dogs working out of fear, because if they're in a state of mind that they're timid and fearful, they won't learn. You're not going to get anything out of them. So this little puppy, you'll notice I've got the slip collar on. When it corrects, it releases. Same thing. It's just a lot duller. So Waylon, on the left-hand side, I want you right here. Spin around. Now, in order for Waylon to get something behind a correction, here's the correct for me. See that? On, off. Didn't hurt her. Sure got her attention. On, off, on, off, on, off. It won't take much of that for her to be really dialed in. Waylon, I want you to take this. Now, if Waylon holds it too high up, like if I hold it here, and I want correction, I'm getting nothing. I'm just not holding it in the right spot. This is mechanical. Hold it in the right spot, and be able to put it on and off. So if I hold it here, but look how tall I am. I'm up to Waylon's nose. So Waylon might have to hold it right here. And if this little dog gets out of the spot that you want her, which is, you want her right here, I want you to give her a tight little snap and say, Ellie, heel. Okay? So you swing around, hold this up so you got that. Now I want you to say, Ellie, heel, and heel her right down there towards my wife. And she's going to heel onto your left side. And then when you get down there, Waylon, nope, not that far, not that far. Then when you get down there, Waylon, watch this. I want you to come to a stop, and I want you to turn. We're going to see how he turns, because most of the time, people walk around the dog. Happens all the time. I say it right now, and it might still happen. Most adults do it. So, 6 years old, I expect you probably will. But when I say walk down, and turn around and come back in a straight line to this chair, we'll see how this works. Because I want the dog to move around Waylon, not Waylon to move around the dog. Go ahead, Waylon. So, Ellie, heel, give her,
Little louder.
and then walk off. Walk off. Loose lead. Nice loose lead. Now turn. It's not bad. We'll turn the other way. Come on back. Looser with the lead. There you go. That's it. Up. You move your hand up a little bit. So he doesn't need to have it that far down. So you can move it right about there. Okay? Ellie, heel. To her, not me. Now turn. Come on back. And you stop when you want to stop and see what she does. Yeah, don't pet her. He's got a real tendency, he wants to pet her. He likes feel. I don't mind that. That's all right. Go ahead, keep walking. Hand on that leash. Get your hand on that leash. Now turn. Now turn back to me. Back to me. Don't let her get distracted. Come on back to me. Give her a little pull. There. Snap her. Snap the lead. There. Now keep walking. See how she put her nose down? Snap that lead. We don't allow it. Now turn and go the other way. And walk the other way. Go. Go, 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 go. See, there's no reason, I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 6 or 16. There's no reason why you can't get dogs. This dog right now respects Waylon. Waylon has asked for it, she has given it. So, now, this is perfect. So heel her back up. Round of applause for Waylon. Now, actually, you know what? I'll take that. I'm gonna have to wrestle you for it, aren't we? So, great job from Waylon. You can sit right there if you want, or you can go back. Next step, we're gonna get into some of this shed stuff. Okay? So this is way more fun. But notice the pep in her step when I picked this up. Notice the focus. She went from pretty flat to being pretty focused. Actually, let's do this first. Her foot looks pretty good right now. She's been warmed up. Now, I want you to remember back to 10 minutes ago when I fed the puppy. Okay, because there's going to be a lot of similarities here that really have nothing to do with a bowl of food right now, but they kind of do. You actually figuring that out? Very good. Hold, hold, hold. Good. Did. Okay. Nice little retrieve, pretty easy, right? See how she had to figure out how to hold that thing? She picked it a couple different ways. Brown one. Brown one in the cupboard is a lot harder to see. Color contrast for my dogs. That bright white one stood out. Easy, visual. Now I've got a brown one with some scent on it. I can get my dog to start using his nose as well as his eyes. Doesn't need to here, but you throw that into the timber, you throw that into the brush. We've got snow on the ground. I throw that on the snow, it's color contrast. It's easy for her to see. If I take that white one and I throw it in the snow, hard for my dog to see. Now I can start incorporating the scent with these coloration changes. But you can see Ellie, solid as a rock. She's not going anywhere. But look at her eyes right now, and look at her focus on me, and she's nearly twitching in excitement. But why doesn't she go? Because she understands. You don't go just because Dad threw something. I'm going to show you why in a second. But now, you'll notice that liner. See how she was like this? If I had sent her, you know where she'd go? Right there. So I step to her and I line her. Good. Come on, come on. Figuring out how do I get this thing? Very good. 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 So, I think a lot of people go, well, that's easy, just throw sheds for your dog. The same people that do that, and I don't care if it's a dummy, an antler, whatever, I already told you I don't do it with a hard antler yet. I take steps. When I train pheasant dogs, I don't take dogs and put them in a pen with a rooster and hope I get a pheasant dog. It won't work. I take steps to get them there. This is a step. This is like the feathered bumper. Okay? So my bird dogs, I go balled up sock, canvas bumper, tape on some wings, add some scent, cold game, fresh kill game, live pigeons, all sorts of stuff before my birds ever dogs ever get birds. My dogs don't get to live birds till they're 10 to 12 months old. But I guarantee you I've never had one that had an issue. My shed dogs don't pick up hard horns till they're to that point. She's just starting. She's almost a year and a half. But I guarantee you I'll have, if she lives to say 12, 13 years old, I'm going to have 10 really good years of hunting on her. Or I might have pushed it and said, 6 months old, I really want to shed hunt. It's springtime, let's do it. I start throwing some hard horns for her. She pokes herself, and now I have 11 and a half years of a dog that's afraid of antlers. I'd rather have 10 good years than 11 and a half that are struggling. Patience. Everything about this revolves around patience. There's no way to speed training the dogs. So as soon as I start changing my mindset to that, time doesn't matter anymore. I don't care how old they are. I had a guy that sent me a message the other week, wanted me to give him a calendar with every day what he should do on it. Train his dog. Every day. He probably is a computer programmer. And I don't say it in a bad way. I just mean the way he thinks. He thinks this dog is something that we add this, then that. Analogy I use a lot is baking versus cooking. I can cook. My wife can cook too. She can bake, she can do everything. I gotta get all the brownie points I can get. So, and I got a couple more coming, so don't worry. But, so baking and cooking. There's a big difference between baking and cooking. Some of the guys in here might not realize that. I figured it out. So I can't bake. I can't bake because I'm not very precise when it comes to that stuff. So if you bake, you have to take steps. You have to add certain things at certain times. Then you got to do this. Then you got to add this. Then you got to do this. You got to do this. There's steps. If you don't do it, it doesn't turn out. But cooking, like I can make venison stroganoff pretty good. I don't know that I make venison stroganoff the same every time. Like some days the kids are there, I don't use as much spice. Some days I don't have certain ingredients, so Steph uses other stuff. But in the end, I get venison stroganoff. It's just not always the exact same, but we get there. Dog training is like cooking. There's no manual that you go, this on this day, this on this day, this on this day. Because this little girl right here is fluid. She's not a robot that's been programmed. And I don't know where, what, how things are going to go. So we have to be constantly adjusting. So with her, next step on this thing, a lot of people do this, and then they go, all right, let's go shed hunting. I got a shed dog. I threw your dummy. I put scent on it. Let's go shed hunting. And then I get emails, and they go, I don't know if this is working. My dog does it every time in the yard, in the backyard. But when we went shed hunting this weekend, she ran right past the shed 3 times. Just can't figure it out. Must not have it in her. You went from A to Z. And a dog learns from A to B, from B to C to C to D, and then we get to Z. I couldn't take this little puppy and set her down and ask her to sit while I walked out and set the food down 3 weeks ago. But in 3 weeks' time, hell, I couldn't get the dog to quit fussing in my arms. But slowly, each day, we improved a little bit, and we added another layer to this thing. So that's a micro example of a big picture thing. So this little dog now, watch the difference between what I just did. So I put time in between these on purpose to explain stuff. But now I'm going to ask you, what am I doing different? Because this is how I bridge the gap. Because a lot of people, dogs won't pick them up unless they throw them for them. It must be because my human scent is on it. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what you've done prior to. So watch this. Heel. Come on. No, heel. Now I put a little time in this. Now remember, I didn't say this before, but it's been proven, it's been proven, they did tests. 2.7 seconds is a short-term memory on a dog. So if it doesn't happen within that 2.7 second window, they don't get it. When that little puppy put her paw down and I corrected her 3.3 seconds later, she didn't understand why I was correcting her. She thought I was correcting her for whatever she was doing at that moment. It wasn't connected to her putting her foot to the ground. I missed it. So good trainers have good timing. Okay? Praise and correction. 2.7 seconds has elapsed. Right? Ellie. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on. Very good. Very good. Very good. Hold. 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 Did. What did I do differently on that one than I did the one before?
You waited longer.
Where did I hear that?
Right here.
Waited longer. What else did I do different?
You turned her around, you made her look away from it.
I might have done that. That's not what I'm looking for, though.
You walked her down,
Walked her down.
put the bone down, and then looked back.
So she said you walked her down, put the bone down, and then you walked her back. So what I did was I went from throwing an antler and sending her on to heeling the dog down, dropping it, putting a little time at that moment, turning her around, healing her, putting a little time at that moment, Then I lined her up and I sent her. Now the thing looks the same to her, because this vision is the exact same that we did when we marked it. When we threw it and we marked it, threw it and marked it, threw it and marked it. Now it's very instinctive for a dog to throw something and chase it down and bring it back to you. That's predator-prey. I don't train that. Retrieve is very natural to them. The delivery, where she held it and delivered it, I trained that. That was hold conditioning. So I took what she did naturally and I polished it up a little bit. But what we just did here was not so natural. Heel down, resist temptation, heel back, sit, stay, be patient, line, and send. That wasn't very natural. But how did I get to be able to do that? Where's Waylon? Heel work. I can't do that drill if I don't have heel work. Sit. I can't do that drill if I don't have a dog that's steady.
Any chance you can put both of them on the floor near each other?
What's that?
Any chance you can put both antlers right near each other? I want to see which one she goes for first.
I can do it. I won't. I don't. I call the risk with that switching. I won't allow a dog
The
to
reason I
switch.
ask is I run cadaver dogs for missing persons.
Sure.
And I just wanted to see if she would actually go for the actual bright one.
Sure. So what am I doing right now? Lots of distractions and a lot of denial. Well, you want to grab a few of those for me? You're on the payroll. Grab a couple of those for me? So what I just did was I threw a bunch of distractions and denials at her. I couldn't have done the drill that I just did off lead until I have a dog that's steady. All this stuff is foundational. It's all foundational. So the shed hunting part is relatively easy. It's the foundation that we have to have in order to do the drills to bring that out and polish it. So the difference was what she said. I put distance and time in, and I'm getting a dog to now start understanding that they're going to pick stuff up off the ground, not necessarily thrown from my hands. So that's a really important part of shed hunting, because has anybody ever been in the woods and watched a deer run through the woods and shed his antlers? I saw it on YouTube once. And if someone says they did, I call BS. Maybe you did, but you won't see it again. So what I need to do is I need these dogs to understand that that's not where they're going to find it. They're going to have to search. Now, natural search is really easy to bring out from a quartering and casting standpoint. Quartering and casting, I'd take a room about this wide, and I'd work at a 45-degree angle, and when the pup hit I take a lawnmower or mower, and I'll mow a strip on each side. Then I'll walk at a 45-degree angle, and when the pup hits that outside change of terrain, I'll peep my whistle. The peep gets them to check in with me, and I'm going the opposite direction. So they will come with. And when they hit that side, before they get to it, I switch. They look, oh, we're going this way. Now I'm bringing out natural quarter, natural cast. Real easy way to do that. So those are some of the steps that I'm taking to teach dogs the idea that this shape, and now, first off, this shape is going to equal the reward. Now, scent-wise, let's talk about scent. Because I think it's a big thing. I think it's 50% of the equation. I think our dogs use their nose like we use our eyes. So I think that it may weigh more heavily for a dog. So we'll just leave her. This is an extension of training. I bet you within a few minutes, she lays down. When I put a dog on sit remotely and they lay down, I'm really happy because it tells me we're going to be here a while. It tells me they're pretty patient. So I like patience. So let's take this tennis ball and this liquid scent. And we make our scent in liquid. We also make it in a stick form. I use them in different applications. If that's frozen, I can't use it. So if you don't bring your training bag in and it freezes, you're in trouble. So that's where the stick is nice. It looks like this. This one is Blood Trail. It's our liquid scent put into these stick forms. We partner with Conquest Scent. So I take this tennis ball. Now, Taylor's all eyes. Taylor's been sleeping the whole time here. Now Dad took a tennis ball out. So, we'll leave that for a while. Now the thing that I like about tennis balls is there. See what I got here? I'm here. Settle down, relax, take your head off. So, what I like about tennis balls is tennis balls are very, very positive things for dogs. They love them. So use them sparingly. I don't want to overwhelm a dog with excitement with tennis balls. I don't want to lose that excitement with it. But a tennis ball carries scent really well. So that liquid, if I was on a hard floor, I could bounce it and spin it, and you'd literally see the mist. I really like chuckets. Those things that you can really, it saves your arm. But you can put them in a chucket, and you can skip a scented tennis ball, and it can bounce all over the place and lay great trails, lay great scent trails. Now, does a shed antler leave a scent trail? No. But what do I want my dogs to use their nose? Yes. And how does that lays a really nice trail. It forces them to work to use the nose. And in the end, a green tennis ball in the grass is hard to see. Forces them to use their nose. I use pink ones in the leaves, in the grass, in the timber. For my tracking dogs, I'll take a bag of hair, deer hair, and I'll just put it in a Ziploc bag, and I'll freeze it. Then I'll take this thing out, and I'll be able to skip it with a chucket, and it lays little scent clues all the way along the trail. I can couple that with the liquid scent, I can couple it with the wax scent. So, lots of different ways to do this, but scent is really important because I feel like dogs, here's a way for me to describe it. So I think it's a question that comes up often, and it's misunderstood often. I think a lot of people get confused with it because dogs smell differently than we do. So I process scent. Here's brownie point number 2 of tonight's seminar. So when Steph makes vegetable soup, which is delicious, I walk in the kitchen. No one's even laughing. Come on, now, I got a little chuckle out of you. When I walk into the kitchen, I smell vegetable soup. It smells good. So my dog walks in and smells vegetable soup. But my dog, the difference between my dog and me is when my dog walks in, it smells salt, pepper, water, the chemicals that are in the water, the minerals that are in the water, peas, carrots. Hey, do me a favor, bud. Can you strike on me? I need a favor out of you. You take that tennis ball and you roll it to the back for me. Just roll it along the ground. Head up away. Perfect. Give it another one. Roll it one more time. Perfect. So, we're setting up for this next thing. So, my dog walks in the room and he smells all those peas, carrots, lettuce, or celery, whatever else is in there. Smells them all individually. Now you're laughing because you don't know if it's soup. Hey, I got thick skin. I'm a Bears fan. I grew up in Green Bay. All right, I can take it. So, this little dog smells every single scent individually. That's how they process scent. So, a lot of people think when you start talking about antlers, what do these things actually smell like? I think it's probably one of the most misunderstood things out there. Because I've seen it written article after article after article now, talking about scent on an antler. Now, people ask me all the time, do those things really smell? Everything smells. The guy that was just in here, the cadaver dog guy, he's a scenting thing. That's a scenting thing. That's all scent discrimination. I know a cadaver dog that came from the kennel here, that they were down in Mississippi. They went down a river. No one could find this person was missing. No one could find him. They took this dog. They went up and down the river in a boat, thinking that they would be able to potentially smell something, right? So they go up and down the river, up and down the river. Couldn't find anything, couldn't find anything, couldn't find anything. This is after the search people had been out. And the dog kept marking in the middle of this river and indicating that something was there. And the handler told them that, can't be, can't be, can't be. They found out that the person was in the river, 60 feet deep in the river, sunk to the bottom. The dog smelled it and indicated it as it was driving up and down the river. So when we start talking about dogs' noses, I think it's really important to understand the power of them, okay? A tablespoon of sugar. Tablespoon of sugar, that's not very much sugar. Olympic-sized swimming pool. 250,000 gallons of water goes into an Olympic-sized swimming pool. 1 tablespoon of sugar in that pool of water. Now you got another pool next to it. No sugar in it. a dog that's trained to detect can go and tell you which pool has the sugar in it. How do I know that? Well, the kennel that we get our dogs from does a lot of stuff with diabetic alert dogs. So diabetic alert dogs have become a big thing. They're a service dog, and they work a lot with, especially with kids that have juvenile diabetes. It's a big issue. So these little dogs are really nice because they're relatively small. They've got nice dispositions. They fit in really well in homes, hospitals, that kind of thing. So these little dogs, they've been shown now to prove that, and I don't know diabetes, but I know that the body puts off a different scent based on your insulin levels. So highs and lows are marked by scent. It's a sweet and a bitter scent, I think, depending on what you are. They've shown where these dogs that are trained to detect for diabetic alert will mark something's going to happen. They'll go and they take a blood test. They'll prick their finger and they test it. Nothing. Everything looks good. Levels look good. 20 minutes later, the person starts to feel it. They prick the blood test and there's a high or a low. That little dog smelled it 20 minutes before our machines could register it. So that tells me just how impressive these dogs' noses are. Now, fly out of Minneapolis. What are you going to have to go by? A bunch of dogs. You know, I'm big. I've learned more about scenting when it comes to dogs, not from dog trainers, but from canine guys, the cops, because they're doing stuff in the military guys, because they're doing stuff that like lives depend on. Like if my dog doesn't find a shed, no one's getting hurt. But if you're going through an airport and a dog misses something and it's a bomb, like that's a lot of pressure. I'm not interested in that pressure. That's why I give a lot of credit to those guys for doing what they do, for a lot of reasons. But that to me is like, now you start thinking about what people do to try to fool those dogs. We're talking bad guys, right? So let's circle back to the idea of a shed antler. What is a shed antler? Now, I learned a lot of this stuff. He was a canine trainer from New York. I met him at a show. It was a deer show. He was there for like a wounded vets thing. He came up, he was talking to me, and we were talking about tracking dogs. I use the same dog to track deer as I do shed hunt, as I do upland waterfowl, and she's a certified therapy dog. So she works with kids that have autism, different disabilities. So you can do all this stuff with multiple dogs. Now our little shed dogs and our little tracking dogs, this guy comes up to me and he starts asking me questions. And I answered them the best I could. And finally, after about 10 minutes of really, now he's from New York. I mean, when I go down south, people think I'm from Canada. I come to Minnesota, I feel right at home, you know. But so this guy was from New York. He was really, really going to tell me what was going on, and he's telling me. And finally, after about 10 minutes, a pretty aggressive, I would say, interview, he took his finger and he went, and he popped me right in the chest, and I went, oh boy, you know. I'm not a little guy, but this guy was feisty. I wasn't, you know. So he goes to me, you know what? I said, no. He pops me and he goes, you know it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, you know what you're talking about. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm a cop. So he starts telling me about stories from him. He trained dogs to track criminals through the streets of New York based on dead skin cells. Like, a criminal runs away, there's an adrenaline rush, there's exfoliation that takes place, and his dog determines dead skin cells of one individual through the streets of New York to find these people. And I go, holy cow. If you can do that, I think she can follow a gut-shot deer through a swamp. Because I mean, think of the scent clues when we start talking. Now when we start talking about shed antlers, does this thing have scent? Here's my test to you. Get a couple fresh sheds. We found 10 last weekend. Get those 10, put them in a Tupperware container, close the lid, and set it in the dash of your truck on a sunny day. Close the door. Now open it back up, take the lid off, and stick your head in there and smell. It'll about knock you over. Because it's concentrated. It smells. They smell. Now, take this shed. This shed's not an old shed. It's not this year's. But you can see on the base. If you look really close, there's hair. It's caked in there. See that dark spot right there?
Yeah.
So that was blood. Blood when it's real bright red. I've got a lot of sheds that we find them real fresh and red. Within a year or so, they start to turn brown, and then they turn to this, like, it's blood, but it's dried on and been started to deteriorate. Does it still have scent? Lots of it. So I found a couple last weekend that have like a green, mucusy slime on it. I don't want to be gross, but I see that all the time. So that's part of this. This bone is made up of calcium. Calcium is like salt. The salt smell, not to me, but to my dog for sure. Remember the Steph's pea soup? She smelled the salt. So there's all these parts of an actual antler that smell. But then, when a buck rubs on stuff, all fall along, and when you find these sheds, you see it right here. There's bark that's in here. Okay? The forehead gland on a deer is a forehead gland. The preorbital gland on a deer is preorbital, eyes. Those are scent glands that deer use to communicate, and they're located right by this thing. And when deer rub, it's a means of distributing their scent as a territorial dominant thing. It's a communal thing. Those are all on here, guaranteed. But now there's all these other things that are involved with it. So, is it a scent thing for my dogs? Absolutely. And as they lay and they're old, do other scents stay? Do some scents stay and some go away? Yup. And then do some scents get added to it? Yup. So I did this last time. It's my new attempt to try to explain it. Because I get a lot of people that they go, I don't know about that scent thing. I think the dog is retrieving it because my scent is on it. And so as soon as my scent's not on it, he's not picking it up. Now, that is the vision of someone who doesn't get how dogs scent. So when I said dogs smell in layers, Minnesota Wild. Now, I'm a Bears fan. So this fella back here, me and him are the same way when it comes to pucks and sticks as well. I can see he's a Blackhawks fan. I'm assuming that's Blackhawks. Because I have seen some logos recently that are Minnesota, like high schools, and they look like the Blackhawks. So I don't know, maybe I'm totally barking up the wrong tree, but I'm a Blackhawks fan. I can't cheer for the Wild this year. They're too good. But I did bring this because I'm no fool. You don't go into enemy territory like this, hostile, right? So let's envision this. I'm a sports guy. I like sports. I like analogies. So antlers and dogs, some people it just doesn't make sense, and sometimes I have a hard time explaining it. This is the antler, okay? It's a hockey stick. It's the antler. This is the retrieve. This is the reward. This is the shape that when my dog smells it and finds it and sees it, they realize I get a reward, I get a retrieve. So here it is. This is scent of something. This might be hair. This might be blood. This might be the green mucus. Now, there's outside influences on antlers. Here's a story from last weekend. We found 10 antlers last weekend, and one of the ones that we found, my buddy's dad had spotted it. He saw it 3 weeks ago. He took a picture of it. He texted it to my buddy, and he said it's right down from the shadow hunter blind. Straight down to the woods. There's another hanging stand that's down. It's in between there. We know right where this is. It's in a big bean field, but it's right on the edge of the woods. So he said, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it there for you guys, because we were coming in a couple of weeks, and you guys use it for the dogs. All the opportunities we can have for success are better. So we did that. So we went through there, and we went through that bean field, and I was live on Facebook when we did it. We found one. I found one. I saw it. I saw it from me to Brian away. Nice shed laying there in the beans. So I said, there's one. Don't touch it. I know everyone's in a hurry. They want to go grab it. It's not going anywhere. It won't run off, I promise. So you got to resist that. But here it is. So I go, there it is. So we all circled back, and my buddy, who has a 10-month-old, we wanted that pup to find it, that young dog. Good opportunity for training. So we all stood back, and we circled back, and I was filming it live. And so dog went through, worked through, went past it a couple times. We figured out where the wind was. We figured out all this stuff, and we used it for training. Well, the dog finally got wind of it. And you can see, dog went past, stopped, worked back, and tail started going. It was just beautiful. Just like a little bird dog. Came in, found it, picked it up, and as the dog was getting closer, I told my buddy, give her a hunt command, give her a hunt command. Our hunt command is find it, 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 find it. Really ramped it up. Same tone, same thing, same. I'm going to show you find it in a minute with that puppy. But so find it, find it, find it, find it. Boom. She found it, she picked it up, brought it back. So we're all excited. Got a shed, so we keep going. We work down to the other beat, nothing, nothing, nothing. We're coming back, and we know that there's a shed there because his dad sent us the picture. We know it is. We walk past it. Nothing. Couldn't find it. So we walk past it again. Works back. Maybe the wind is different. Can't find it. Can't find it. We couldn't find it. I mean, in a field, we should have been able to see it. It's right on the edge. We couldn't find it. So he gets his picture out of he gets his phone, he looks at the text. And we look at it and we go, that's the shed we picked up. But it was 100 yards from where his dad said it was. How did it get there? I got 3 pictures from people this week that sent me pictures of coyotes that had sheds in their mouth. So I've had people say, well, your dogs, you got to wash them after your dogs retrieve them because their saliva is going to be on them and they'll just key off of the scent. That's the only reason they'll find it is because it's their saliva. I've had people say you can't put your hands on them because they'll only find them if your scent is on them. And once your hand's not on them, they won't find them anymore. Here's my thing. Remember the antler? Now remember, dogs process things separately. If it's a visual thing, and I said to my dog, okay, dog, hockey stick equals reward. Find the hockey stick. Okay? So, hockey stick, ball, ball, ball. Little shuttlecock, different type of ball, another different ball, another different ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things here representing 8,000 scent clues. Okay? They're all there, and if my dog goes and goes, hockey stick, there's my retrieve, there's the antler. So now, he gets in, that little dog's going to get in his mind and go, these scent clues were here. All 8 of these scent clues were here, and I found what I was supposed to find. Now, these 2 aren't there. My dog goes through with his nose and goes, there's 6 scent clues that I just found a hockey stick for, a shed. They're going to investigate it with their nose and go, there's the stick. Picked it up, got the retrieve. Now, I add a different scent to it, a different ball. Because when the raccoons, or the chipmunks, the squirrels, all that stuff touch the antler, which they do, what scent is, there's scent being added to it, right? Coyotes urinate on a lot of stuff. They're just like dogs, they mark stuff. I found a lot of sheds that lay in the snow that have a yellow, don't eat yellow snow, tip of the day. So I found a lot of antlers that have yellow snow next to them. It's because they got marked. I found a lot of antlers that have tiny little teeth marks on the tips. It's because coyotes chew on them. You know what's a big market right now? Antler chews for dogs. Because they're rich in calcium, they're natural. The coyotes chew on them themselves. They're part of the dog family. So when you start adding in all those scent clues for my dog to cue in on, well now if I start picking up some of those and taking them away, there's still enough there to keep my dog interested to go check it out. And when he checks it out and visually confirms the hockey stick is there, they'll still pick it up and bring it back to me. So here's one I've heard a lot. Now, let's say this one represents my scent. Okay? It's on the hockey stick this time. It's on the hockey stick almost all the time because it came out of my bag and I touched it. And my dog will smell it. We got a dreamer. Dreaming about booners. I don't blame her. So now that scent is there. Well, guess what? So are all these other scent clues. So when the wild shed is laying in the woods and you peel one of those off, which is my scent, the rest are still there. You're not going to fool your dog's nose. So you'll never train if you think you'll always be cleaning. You'll never be training. So this one, smell your hands for me, Alyssa. Do you smell them?
No.
Okay, good. You said yes, you should wash them more often. No, I don't smell my hands either. Is there scent to them? Yes, absolutely. Will my dog smell them? Smell my gloves, Alyssa. Because I've heard a lot of people say put rubber gloves on. Do you smell that?
Yeah.
What does it smell like?
Rubber.
Like a rubber glove. So when you touch that antler with the rubber glove as opposed to your hand, are you making sure that there is no scent on the antler, or are you just putting rubber glove on the antler? What's the difference? Don't waste your time. So that's where I think understanding scent is so important in how they process. So when I do train, I just took that antler scent and I put it on a tennis ball. You know what this antler scent smells like? It doesn't smell like an antler. It smells like 100 antlers. It's concentrated. It's really strong. Pheasant scent doesn't smell like a pheasant. It smells like a lot of pheasants. Because when we train to build success. We train for dogs to understand and have success. So, I'm going to take Taylor here. Come on. put enough time in between this little lesson. Come on. Now this will be a good steadiness test for Ellie. So I'm just going to send her and I'm going to tell her find it. I'm going to give her a hunt command. I'm going to show, I said find it, and did you just see her tail? It really started going. So I'm just going to give her a, it's really going right now. If you can see her tail, she's really, 3 minutes ago I didn't know if she was alive. And all of a sudden I say one command, find it, and she goes, pop, 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 because it's been conditioned. I'm going to show you how I do it with the pup in a minute. Find it. Somewhere in there, she's going to hit that center from the 10 spot. I'm just going to let her work. Find it. Right to the food stand. Good test for Ellie to stay still. Ellie, lay down. Find it, Carol. Find it. We can see she's looking at me. She wants help. I'm not going to help. She's going to figure this out. Find it. Find it. Find it.
She was really close
Find
to
it.
it.
Find it.
Found it.
Now, could she see it? No. Use your nose to get to it. Now, is that realistic? That you're, what my hope is to show that is she had to work her nose, she used it, she went back, she went forth, come on, get up. And eventually she found it. Now, who took care of that? Blaine, did you take care of that for me? That was a good spot. Look at that, a good spot, right in the tight in the corner. So that was all nose work to get to it. How do I get her to that point? I'm going to show you quick. Ellie, come here. Ellie, come on. Come on. Get up. Get up. Okay. Back up. Reverse engineer that and go, little puppy. Now the risk I have in this is little puppy's been sleeping, laying on her bed. What I really should do is take her outside. Cabela's has a pretty good cleanup crew, though, I heard. They do a nice job, so accidents get taken care of. So, but normally right now, what I would do is I would take her outside and let her pee. She's going to pee probably. You guys love me back? So here's what I would do normally. You guys don't have snow, so you could use grass. Take your lawnmower and mow yourself a circle about this big. Cool. Mow yourself a nice little circle. Leave the grass just a little bit taller on the inside. And then take some food and sprinkle it in. Okay? Now I like this carpet because I'm not sure where they went. I see one, I see two. I put 4. Do you see them? They're there. I just don't know exactly where. So I look at this and it's psychedelic, man. I'm going to get dizzy looking down at the floor right now trying to find these. But this little puppy can't see it either. So how is my little puppy going to find it? I guarantee she'll find it. Right here, right? She'll use her nose. So now in the background, find it doesn't mean anything to her. I did find it for the very first time this afternoon, the seminar before this. We're going to do it again. Find it doesn't mean anything, but when I time it to be her using her nose, her little tail wagging, and her finding it, I'm going to time it out with me going, find it, 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 find it. And that's what I did with that dog. And when I said find it, find it, find it, her nose started going. She started working, and she knew there was something. She was going to hunt for me until she'd find it. Let me set her down. If she doesn't go into the area, I won't say a word. Now the risk with this is a lot of distractions. So let's see how she does. You know what her habit is right now? Usually you tell me to sit. Usually, I'm going to move around.
She found one.
Oh, she found one. Good girl. She did find one. Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it. Find it.
Don't tell her.
Find it. 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 that nose. I'm really impressed. Good girl, very good, very good. She found one. I'm very impressed with how tight she's working this area. Fine, 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 fine. She's looking at me. Fine, 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 fine. She goes over that way, there's nothing there. So I turn off to fight it. She goes, this is crazy. Come on, come on, come on. That was, I would call that enough success for that little lesson. Now, find it, find it. Now she's loosening up. Now we can really get some fun stuff going.
Where we told her to find it.
Come here, come on, come on, come on. Good girl. Now, with her ramping up, I'm going to show you, I'm going to back up a little bit. And I'm going to show you some of this sit and recall. Now I'm going to come back here because it's way less distracting. But this is how I get some of that recall stuff going with her. She's going to know I've got food. Sit. Sit. Good girl. And I give her food right away. I've been working away from giving her food. Come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. She comes to me, I move away from her. She's got garbage. She moves. I'm going to move away from her. Come on, come on, come on. My tone of voice gets her over. Sit. 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 As soon as this went away, she got less distracted. So she got into some garbage. Come here. Good girl, good girl, good girl. She's really ramping up. Come on. Sit. Good. That one I praised her for. No, sit. Now you'll hear my tone of voice change. I get real excited to get her to me, and then I get a little serious with it. Come on, 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 come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come here, come on. Sit. Good. Very good. Sit. I'm going to build off it. What does this look like? A lot like what we do in feeding time. Good. Very good. So I'm going to end that. That was a lesson. It took 3 minutes. It was a real solid lesson. And what we really did was we just practiced and we reinforced some of the stuff we work on during that feeding time, and it wasn't feeding time. So now I'm transferring all those habits. So we get to this, we were talking scent stuff. So we got through that. Ooh, pushing it again. You guys are troopers, man. Holy man. So shape was our first thing. Scent was our second thing. We talked a lot about foundational work. Have to have foundation in order to do any of this stuff. Feel is the last part. That's easy. I build the confidence in my dog. She just started picking up. I'm going to use her. I'm going to show you the difference between what she did with this and this. Okay, she's pretty confident with this. We didn't do this morning. Ellie, come here. Ellie. Ellie, come on. Now, she's been picking up that antler shape for quite a while. I'm going to show you the difference between the antler shape and the actual antler. Here. Now, that tells me one thing. That was pretty unsteady. Not good at all. Now, I'm not going to make this into a big, long thing with an antler. This is a big step for her. She's only picked up a few. She picked one up, and I mean in training. She picked one up last week for me. You'll watch it. It was awful. She walked past it 4 times. But every shed I find, I make sure to get a win out of it. So with her, we got a win. Good girl, very good, very good. Come on, come on. She's figuring it out. Come on, come on. Now, see it? There's a little hesitation. Come on, good girl, good girl, very good, very good. That's a good girl. Now, that's the most praise she's had on a retrieve for months. Good girl, very good. Sit. Build off that. But you'll see how cautious was she to pick that thing up. It feels really different. And for this dog, for hundreds of years, if you have a retriever, for hundreds and hundreds of years, they've tried to breed those dogs to have soft mouths. It goes against everything they know. They don't want hard stuff. Ellie. Good girl. Very good. Come on. Oh. Good. Did. So you can see, you guys saw probably 25% of the time she's ever picked up a hard horn. She struggled on the first one. She had confidence on the second one. For me, I would do some drills now. And I'd start building in and incorporating. And I wouldn't go exclusively hard. When I train bird dogs, I don't go just to birds. Once I get to birds, I don't just use birds. Gotta keep it fresh. So tennis balls, training dummies, scented, canvas bumpers. When I train dogs to go to birds, I'll use something that looks like this at some point. Before that, I'll use something that looked like this. Before that, I used a puppy one and then a balled up sock. So the process is very, very similar. So, covered a lot of stuff. Talked about a lot of stuff. Totally different than our first one. I would say it was very, very different than the first one that we did this morning. That doesn't surprise me. It just, things go different directions. But, so what, take away from this, my hope is not that you go, holy cow, that was a ton of stuff. Probably overwhelming, would have been for me. I think I would highly recommend listening and talking to as many trainers as you can. I think you got to find a style. I have a style that I think fits me and my dogs. My style, I realize that my style changes. I'm changing it constantly. The core stays the same, but the little things change, depending on the dog, depending on me. I've learned a lot over the years, and I'm going to hopefully continue to. So I think I recommend listening to everybody. I recommend picking out what works for you and your dog. And I think sometimes you learn as much what not to do by some trainers. Everyone's got a different style. So I think that's a real important part of it. The other thing I think is go home and figure this out. So with all the stuff we talked about today, I try to figure out where am I with my dog, at what point. Some of you got little ones, some of you got a little bit older dogs. And then plug it in. And then you might be ready to go forward or backwards depending on what you need. So the guy that wants the calendar every day written out, no such thing. I bought a book that does do that. I bought a book that was written in the 70s, How to Train a Duck Hunter, I think it's called. And it was written by a guy that I think really highly of. He's a trainer. He also wrote a book called Retriever Training, a Back to the Basics Approach. His name's Robert Milner. I think that was one of the best books I've ever read. Then I figured, I'm going to read his other books. I read this other one that he wrote, and I didn't get through 3 pages of it, and I threw it away. Because it literally says day to day what to do with the dog. How does he know what my dog's doing? And what happens if I miss a day, Robert? You know, like, so things happen. So I don't think there's a manual that can go do this, then this, then this, then this. I think we look at the big picture at the end, we look at where we start in the beginning, and then we got to be fluid all the way through to get there. But I do think it's foundation first. So we've got a lot of information. Our products are sold here at Cabela's. So the kits have a booklet, a training DVD, or a booklet, a bottle of scent, and the dummy. We've done DVDs for shed hunting, tracking, and foundation, which is puppy. It's 2.5 hours. I'm really proud of it. I think it's got a lot of good stuff. We do the dummies. We do the tracking stuff. So if you got a cheat sheet, on the bottom of the cheat sheet is our website. That's dogbonehunter.com. A lot of information there. I think our social media